Cool. So, well, I'm really, I'm really happy to have everybody on here to be able to get everybody together. I love Blab for this space because I feel like it's something that we're all hungry for, which is there's infertility podcasts, there's infertility blogs, 8 trillion of them, and I feel like there's definitely a forum or a market for a forum where people can just talk and just have a free flowing forum, or they can have something more planned and scripted. And whether it's this or whether it's something else in a couple years, I just feel like video and an easy way to pull people from different spaces is really awesome to have. And so I think this is really cool because it kind of just gives us a little bit to talk. And I just want to invite everybody just to share a little bit about themselves and how they got involved in the space. And Candace, I'll start with you and Chris because you're the one that introduced me to everybody. So, let's just start with you.
Well, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot.
Oh,
here.
all right. Perfect. Yeah. Nice. All right. This is my first and last blab. No. So we come into the infertility realm much like probably 99% of the people that are listening to this. We were just going to have a kid and it was going to be great. We got married. And then it didn't work that way. And fast forward 7 years and a pre-cancer scare with Candace. And we have a daughter through a surrogate who is our hero. And, even though we have the daughter, we still are infertile. So if we don't have the opportunity for an oops pregnancy. So if we want to do any more family building, then it's going to have to be through alternative means. And it's just been fantastic for us to talk with everybody, get our story out, and also hear everybody else's stories. And somehow by all these voices getting together and saying all the struggle we go through, somehow it makes it that much easier.
Yeah, and really it's just about sharing. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
I think we lost Fran, but
yeah, and it's really just about talking about it, and we decided to just take our struggle and make something positive out of it and just share with everybody. So that's how I bump into all these amazing people who do the same, and they're all at different stages in their journey or in their profession, but they all agree on one thing, that being pro-family and family building is a struggle, and infertility just affects you to the core. And so if we can talk about it and we can share that, it's amazing. So that's why I've met Angie, and that's how I've ran into Fran, and that's how I've ran into you, Griff, is through this space of just starting the conversation.
Cool. Angie, how did you, from Akron, Ohio?
From Akron, Ohio. Yeah. So much like Candace, my husband.
I got love for the Rust Belt, right? If you know anything about me, I love
all
New
about
York.
the Rust Belt
here, and so I've got a lot of loyalty to the rest of the Rust Belt. So I was pretty happy to see that you're coming from my tribe.
I'm a big history nerd, so I love this area and the history behind it and the way it's changing. So
we're definitely gonna geek out for a little bit at Advocacy Day, but that's neither here nor there. So
for sure.
Before I interrupted you.
No, I came into it much the same way, like Candace said, anybody else does. I was in a previous relationship where I was engaged. We tried to have a child, nothing ever happened. Got married to my husband. Tried for probably 4 or 5 years because I fall into that super awesome realm of when I met my husband, we were both very, very poor. We didn't have health care, the whole 9 yards, and it's taken us several years even to be able to get in to see a doctor. I'm currently still in the middle of treatment. So I've done 1 round of IVF that took us forever to save up for, and I travel 6 hours one way to go to the clinic that I go to so that I can afford to pay for it because my insurance doesn't cover it. And right now I currently have 29 embryos in the freezer. Yeah. So I'm in this really odd category of I have completely unexplained infertility. Nobody can tell me what's wrong. On paper, my husband and I should be Duggars. So We don't know what's going on there. So it's like trial and error.
Is that a reality TV reference?
Oh yeah. I'm just like, my doctor actually said, he's like, you guys' numbers are great. I don't know what's wrong.
Right.
I do have one added complication in that I had surgery for suspected endometriosis this summer. Turns out I didn't have endometriosis. Instead, I had non-cancerous tumors growing in my pelvic wall that are typically ovarian tumors. The problem with them being is that once they're removed, they will absolutely grow back. And there's a 30% risk with each tumor that grows, they'll be cancerous. So every 6 months, I have a CT scan and blood work while I'm still trying to get pregnant. But at some point, I'm going to have like a complete, absolute radical hysterectomy, everything out. Because the tumor growth is, and the cancer risk is 100% linked to how many reproductive organs I have.
So I'm going to segue into this because I'm coming from a completely opposite, just a completely, totally different area. So, Chris, when you said the 99%, I am the 1%.
1%.
In the space and normally I feel like, like not having the inside perspective, but I think that infertility awareness is actually something I do feel pretty comfortable talking about, staying in my lane, because I'm the demo for infertility awareness in terms of like people that just need to know more about it. I just feel like any cause, I don't care if it's a political cause or if it's trying to get a new trend going or anything, if it only matters to the people that are involved in it, then it has no leg, got nowhere to go. And so I really feel like just me as a person that doesn't have this experience at a personal level, that probably would have said a lot of the same stupid crap that people say. And to be honest with you, I just never thought about it. I just never thought a single thing about it. I didn't know what a reproductive endocrinologist was. And so I actually started, I got into the space once I just started working with Buffalo IVF haphazardly, and I noticed how passionate people were about it and how much they wanted to be listened to. And I think that we have this MO, is even in the space, that we keep telling ourselves that people don't want to talk about it. And so Candace, I guess I'll start, break that down a little bit, because Resolve and the movement really chose very deliberately to go with this Start Asking campaign. And there's definitely people that don't want to talk about it, and I think that's fine too. I think every single person, it's a deeply personal and individual matter, but there are absolutely people that want to talk about it. And so can you just go through the dynamics of that?
No, you're muted.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Crud. You guys are, I'm gonna try and can you undo your mic, or can you hear us? All right, Angie, I'm gonna roll this question to you. I'm gonna talk about this with you a little bit. If we can't if we can't get Candace's audio and Fran back, then we'll just kind of reboot and regroup. But no, some people really want to talk about it, and so can you walk that through for you and the people that you've talked to and your experience about that?
So I think a lot of people's hesitation with the Start Asking is that I think they automatically go to the idea that it has to be personal. Start asking, like, oh, I want people to start asking me about my infertility. And it isn't so much that as it is, we need people, whether it directly affects you or not, to get out there and start asking your doctors and your employers and your healthcare providers and anybody that'll listen to actually give us the healthcare, access to healthcare, access to the adoption tax credit, option to all of these family building options that are gated off to so many people right now because people just don't know. Like, I think a lot of people have a built-in assumption that, well, infertility stuff is covered, adoption's really cheap. All of these complete and absolute myths just out of people not having the knowledge of what this situation is for us.
And so you broke between it being just asking about it being personal or asking about it more generally to learn more about the condition, especially the public affairs and everything else that impacts it. But like, there is a line, right? Like, isn't there like some sort of gray area where, I mean, if you are talking about it, inevitably people are going to ask you personal questions.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's up to you to set that boundary on what you're willing to share and what you aren't willing to share. Maybe you don't want to share anything at all, and that's totally fine. You know, it's deciding ahead of time kind of where you're going to set your boundary and then sticking to it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can definitely share without having to get too personal. I'm in that situation where like I share and I'm super personal and I lay it all out there. I don't really care. But I know that a lot of people don't do that. But we still—
Were you always at that point? Or was that something gradual for you?
I've always been at that point. I'm totally like, what you see is what you get. No filter. Like, I just lay it all out there.
Yeah.
So, but I have friends, you know, I run a peer-led support group for my area. I have a lot of women and couples in my group that aren't comfortable sharing with their friends and family. So the only people that they have to talk to are their support group friends. You know, and I'm really supportive of them in either, you know, helping them to discuss that and set the boundaries with their family members. You know, how personal do you want to get? If you want to just share that you're struggling, but you don't want to share details, that's totally fine. Yay, we got Candace back.
Hey, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Hey.
Awesome. We can hear Candace and Chris. Flick, I see you in here. If you have a camera, do you want to jump on? Grab that fourth seat. As soon as I can, if we can get Rebecca to jump on. So Andrew walked us a little bit through about the difference between it being a personal. Hey, none of us are wearing pants, Rebecca. That's right, just a fact.
No, I'm definitely wearing yoga pants. So you're not.
That's alone. A fact. Andrew shared a little bit about her experience and the difference between about just asking about infertility to being more conscious of what that is as a disease in general and the implications of it versus being someone's personal circumstances. So, and then talking about boundaries. So, I would like you guys to talk a little bit about what your personal boundaries are and what you really want people to know.
You're in the spotlight on this.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, boundaries. I mean, I think at this point, since we're so open about it, there's not a whole lot of boundaries when it comes to what.
But how did you guys get to that point?
Now it took a long time. We didn't talk about it for about 2 to 3 years of our journey. We were already a couple IVFs deep before we decided to share it. And finally, we were at a point where we didn't have any support. We weren't seeking any counseling. I didn't know about organizations like Resolve or that. I just felt alone. And so finally, we had.
Oh no! It cut out.
No, we lost the sound again. Correct. All right. Let me pose this to you. If I can't hear you right now, do you want to try to like reboot in 5 minutes? Like, just see if if we've got an email from Fran. Like, if she has tried reaching out to us. I'm looking in my email box now. Do you want to do that? You want to give me a thumbs up if you want to try and like regroup in 5 minutes, like reboot the computers? All right, let's do that. Let's try rebooting everything. And then I might have to check your email box in case I need to send you a separate link. And and then
here
we'll
comes
go
Fran.
from there. What's that?
There's Fran. She just popped in.
She's back?
Yeah, I see her.
If Fran, if you can jump back on here, I might just have Chris and Candace reboot again, and then and we'll see. Let's see if this works.
Okay. Well, my world went black. It went dark.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm glad. What was it, a blab issue or was it a?
Well, my whole computer just shut down, just like my whole life shut down when I was diagnosed with infertility. I'm right back in there.
Segue of the year, which is actually exactly what we were about to talk about when you bumped off. So yeah, just talk a little bit about how you got into the space in terms of I guess in terms of advocacy, and then however much information you want to share that led up to that part.
Sure. And I'm sorry for that. So basically, I mean, I was a patient. I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility, and I was very silent about my journey. So to me, this is like all new because I just became very open after the fact, not before the fact. I was very silent, didn't tell anybody. And that was the way I dealt with it. But now I feel that so many more people are opening up and the conversation is here. So I went through probably about 7 years of treatments. I did have a loss prior to having my son through IVF. So there were many ups and downs and worlds turning dark and coming back. And I just started to, share my story with others because I felt like when I was going through it, I was silent. But then afterwards, I felt like there were so many other people out there experiencing what I did. And it just made it easier for me to speak about it.
And so that 7 years, that was the silent period that you're referring to?
Oh, yes. It was a very silent period. It was like me, my husband, and, nobody knew, not my family, nobody. I felt like there was enough pressure on ourselves as a couple that opening it up for other people to have comments or, advice on how you should, become pregnant, hanging upside down or, doing whatever, those crazy things that people say. I felt like, it was just easier for me and my husband to deal with it as a couple instead of opening it up to the world, knowing what every step we were going through.
And so when you say your family didn't know, do you mean not even your immediate family?
Nobody, not my mother, my father, nobody, not a person. It was a
support group too, but I mean, you're both in the space. Is that common? I know it's common to not tell people too far out of that, but is it common even to the point of immediate family?
Yep.
I mean, for me, it was. I don't know if some other people. I feel they tell their immediate family, but then they keep it private from like friends or acquaintances, coworkers. I mean, even when I was going through treatment with coworkers, nobody knew. Like, not a person knew. I made it on time to work. Nobody knew. Nobody saw bruises on my belly. Nobody saw nothing. I was I hid it very well, and in a way, I kind of regret that a little bit because I felt like I could have probably needed that support, but instead I just chose for my own type of support from one-on-one therapy. That's just something that helped me kind of like keep my sanity.
Well, so the fact when you said before and after the fact meaning your son.
Yes.
And so at that point you felt more comfortable sharing with people. Is that simply because you felt like, the social pressure wouldn't sting as much if people said bullcrap to you?
Well, I mean, for me, after I had a very late pregnancy loss. I lost a child at 25 weeks pregnant. So I was showing. It wasn't like I wasn't showing. I was, getting ready to plan a baby shower. So to me, when I had that loss, what bothered me, with that, obviously, was that people now knew, like they had ideas of what was going on. And now it was like, I didn't come home with a baby. I had a loss, and now I have to go through this again. So it was devastating to have to, open up to other people, knowing that, okay, I'm sorry for your loss, but they don't know what else I was going through prior. So, it was a difficult thing. And then even when I did go back after the fact of having my loss and going back through, treatments, I still kept it kind of to myself. A few other people kind of like knew, like it was like that look, like, yeah, you're going back for treatment. It was kind of like that look, but let's not talk about it.
Yeah. And so then what became the impetus for you where, okay, now that's changed and you want people to know more about infertility? What was that for you?
Well, for me, during my whole journey, I kind of journalized. I wrote things down, and I ended up writing a book about my journey. And after I knew I was going to release my book, I said, everybody is going to know everything now. They're going to be like, wow, really? So to me, after having my son and knowing that, I have my son now, I was truly grateful for that blessing. I felt like I should have opened up more to other people, including my family, which, like I said, they were completely like shocked and they were hurt that I didn't let them in on what I was struggling with. But for me, like I said, that was just my way of dealing with my own pain. And it is very common where people keep it silent. I mean, even now, it is a little more open, the conversation, which I think that is what we need to do. And, somebody coming from the complete silence to like being open and just sharing everything like an open book, it's one extreme to the next. But I feel like there are so many other people that are afraid to open up, and they actually relate to somebody who felt their pain. I don't know if you're shaking your head, Angela, like, yes.
Well, no, that's just it. Like because I'm so vocal, I've had so many people reach out to me through Facebook or email, or even coworkers at work that are like, I had a loss too. I had trouble getting pregnant. And these are people that nobody knew. Nobody. Yeah. But as soon as I opened up, they would like corner me. And like, I have somebody, we're best friends now. I have somebody to talk to, because they kept it inside for so long and felt so isolated. And
yes.
It really like pushes me to keep talking about it, because I want them to know they're not alone. Even if they're not able to open up to everybody around them, to know that there's somebody like me out there that they can invest that in, and that'll be there and be that talking point.
Absolutely. It's like a comfort zone. It's like once somebody knows you struggled with something that maybe they're experiencing, it's like the comfort where they could come and approach you and actually maybe not exactly come out and say I had issues, but maybe like come into this friendly conversation, and then it comes up and it's like, yes, me too, you're not alone. I understand. Like I've been there. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. Or even now being a mom and in school, people, I'll send an email and they'll see it. And sometimes I try and like, not, because I don't know, like some people maybe feel weird, or something about it, if they've been, had an easy time getting pregnant. But I've gotten emails from people that are like, wow, I saw your website, or wow, I saw this, and can I talk to you? Or I went through it, or, that's awesome. So, it's something like you said, like people find that support in just relating to what other people experience that are similar. And I think it's great that people do open up now, and, you feel that sense of comfort with them, having that conversation.
Well, like I've actually had it to where people who hadn't shared with any of their family members, being able to talk to me, since I've always been fairly open about it, has helped them in figuring out, like maybe they were being silent, but it wasn't necessarily because they wanted to, but because they didn't know how to broach it with their family, or how to tell their family in a way that would keep from them saying like those insensitive things that are really hurtful. Yes, so I would help them kind of work through ways that they could explain the situation to their family members and say, this is what I need from you. this is what I don't need from you, and how to set those boundaries and those expectations with their family members. And that's actually made it so that they can share and get their family involved now without having to like just throw themselves under a bus.
Right. I find that the boundaries between family and, what you're going through, family is your worst critic, and you always think worse, like they're gonna feel like, what did I do? Or, how did this happen? Or, what can I do to make you better? Like, so it is a boundary that you have to find that the timing is right to have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, your family wants to fix it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, what you're talking about, Angie, is that somebody has to go first. Like when you're talking about, like, you were the person that was willing to be upfront because that's more in step with your personality, and that allowed other people to what Fran said, your comfort zone. That's a really tough thing for most people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that once someone else does it, that it's easier for that person to do it for somebody else? You know what I'm saying? So it's more in line with your personality, but say you connect with someone, it's not totally in line with their personality, but because they saw the value of being able to talk with you, that makes it easier for them to open up. Is that common?
Yeah, that seems to be really helpful, and they can see and just know, I guess, based on like my experience, ways to set those boundaries and expectations with people without getting the negative feedback. So that's the biggest fear for people, I think, even without, not considering personality differences. It's that fear of how your family's going to react and what they're going to say. We get enough stupid comments without it coming from family too. Like, you've been married for 2 years. You guys should really get on that. 6 years in, wow, you guys have been married for a really long time. How many kids do you have? Oh, you don't have any? Wow.
I still get it now after one, like, oh, when are you gonna have another?
Yeah.
Like, why do you only have one? So I mean, it's so the way it goes is like the conversation, like, when are you gonna get married? Or, when are you going to get this, and when are you going to have a baby, and then when are you going to have the next baby, or when are you going to, it's kind of like they're in line with everything that, yes, is supposed to happen, but
doesn't happen for all of us.
It doesn't happen for all of us. And, it's just, I feel like one person talks, and sometimes it does become a chain reaction where they find, like I said, that comfort where you're talking to people that never opens up to their family, and then they feel comfortable talking to you and maybe a friend of theirs, so it's really a chain reaction when you start opening up. It really is. And, communications via email or online, it's a step where people could reach out to, others that feel like have that comfort level with, feeling comfortable talking to people. So,
well, and I've had a lot of people tell me just that my openness with it, and I just own it. Like, I don't have to, I like to look at it like I don't have to have a child to have beaten infertility. I beat infertility every day because I own it. It is what it is. It's a disease. I'm always going to suffer from it. I could have 5 kids. I'm still going to be infertile. Yeah. So I just have to own that part of me and not be ashamed of it. And because I can own it and I don't have that shame, I'm trying to normalize it for the public because it has to deal with sex. So we don't want to talk about that, and that's naughty and shameful. And we really have to work around that. And I'm like, look, it's a disease. Would you be afraid to tell your family members that you had diabetes?
Right.
No.
Right. You have to put it in a perspective where they understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Some people think infertility is just, oh, you're gonna figure out how you're gonna have a baby, and now you're messing with this and messing with that, and it's not natural, or people don't understand that once it affects you or a loved one, that's when you start opening up yourself to understand and raise your own awareness and educate yourself on exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Can I say something in line with that?
Yes.
Because I'm actually a person that that wants to adopt children. That's actually just my first choice. It's just like it's just what I've wanted to do for years. That's like a life decision that I want to build around, and some of my friends know that, and some people around me know that, and they'll be like, and then when I started working with fertility clinics, they'll be like, oh, but don't you think that's bad? Because like, shouldn't those people just adopt kids? And I'm like, so I was about to cuss. I'm not, but I was like, I want it to be a choice that everybody considers, and not something that people should have to defer to because of their disease. Like it should just be like it's something that I believe in. I would like just society as a whole to consider it a little bit more. But not like as a second option. Like I hate that.
Right.
No, that's one of my big things is I like to tell people, I'm like, look, adoption solves the need for children. It doesn't solve your infertility. So, and you know, like, because it's the infertile's job to adopt all the children in the world. Like, anybody can adopt a child, and it should be more readily available to anybody that wants to pursue that option. Just so happens that having biological children, if you can naturally, is cheaper. You know, and I think more people would be willing to adopt if there was more options out there for helping to pay for it even.
Right. I mean, there's a lot, right. There's a lot of legal expenses. I mean, I, throughout my journey, I considered adoption, and honestly, I would even adopt at this point because I feel like my son, he wants a sibling, and, you know, a lot of his friends do. So that's the thing, like, I'm an only child now. And how do you explain, you know, I'm like, how do you explain to an 8-year-old?
Yeah.
And he knows, and it's funny because he knows about adoption. Like, we've talked about it, and he's like, Mommy, I don't understand. Why can't we just go to an adoption agency and adopt me a brother, a sister, you know, like I wish it was that easy. It's not that easy. He's like, well, you're giving them a family, you know. So I think that's really, you know, something that people, you need to know that is an option. But like you said, Angela, it doesn't cure your infertileness, but it does, you know, help other children, and, you know, you're making a family in other ways, and that's, you know, that's okay. You know, that's what, you know, is out there, and those are options, but they should be more readily available, and, you know, with financial assistance and stuff like that to adopt.
Chris and Candace, can you hear us all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Not only have we burned through a billion devices, but there's also thunderstorms going on right now.
Oh, that might be it.
Let's blame the thunderstorms. The engineers at Blab have done everything right. Let's just blame the thunderstorms.
That's the story.
Well, all right. So we were just talking about adoption, but we actually got on there talking about people saying stupid crap. And I think the stupid crap that people say and how much it really hurts people and how much that actually is a big part of what prevents people from seeking support or from speaking out, I feel like is also one of the biggest, to me, one of the biggest reasons that somebody would want to advocate for support, because the only, or awareness, I should say, because the only reason I know about this is because I started, looking at Resolve and just started listening to patients, and so now I know it's important, and now I can educate other people. And a lot of people will ask me, "Oh, when's your buddy gonna have a kid? When's your, when are they gonna have another one?" And now I know to say it. Like, that's something I've learned not to ask people. And so, so I mean, like, if you guys could talk about the stupid crap that you get because you're in this space as a couple, and Chris, there's not a lot of dudes talking in this.
Oh yeah, like can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. For one.
Great. Yeah. So it's the normal thing of oh well, if you're having trouble having kids, well, that just means you get all kinds of sex, right?
Yeah.
That's the number one I get from people. I'm like, oh yeah, tracking ovulation, having Candace say, okay, it needs to happen in the next half hour.
No pressure.
And then there's going to be,
No pressure.
yeah, right. There's going to be some serious, bedroom antics that have nothing to do with having fun as we try to do everything we can to, try to increase our chances by that 0.0001%. That's I think for guys, especially for guys that don't have infertility, or even more so guys, we're not necessarily encouraged to have kids, because that takes away from our beer drinking and general rabble rousing. So I think, for us, it's certainly a more taboo topic.
And before you guys had left, I think we sort of broken off from like how you started, like how you got from like being open, having a blog to where you started, which sounded like you're not there when you first started your journey.
Yes, we didn't talk about it at all. I was very ashamed of it. Chris, it's one of those things, it's kind of emasculating because, he had male factor, I had issues, and then we also fell into the unexplained category. So we were in 3 different categories all at one time. It was really bizarre in how it all played out. But so it was just a frustrating situation. And again, I didn't reach out for support, and I didn't know that there were tools available to me. And so it wasn't until we did start talking about it and started becoming vocal that we realized that, we need to debunk the stigma. We need to help other couples who may be in silence. We need to help other couples that may not know that there are options out there, that there are areas of support like counseling, like Resolve, and like other organizations that, can help.
And so how many years, what was this? Like how many years has this journey been?
It's been,
7 years total before we became parents. And you were talking about...
No, 9.
9.
Yeah.
9 total, yeah. And you were talking about comments earlier. We went the surrogacy route at the end of the day. Actually, we went through IVF, we went through adoption, and then we, went into surrogacy. And there were some really, really offensive comments that we had coming our way from that point. And it was just a lack of education. It was lack of understanding of the process. More or less just not understanding what surrogacy is, because
I got asked a lot of times how Candace agreed to let me sleep with our surrogate. So just general misunderstanding of what the options really were.
God. This isn't biblical times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a horrible comedy. Like,
yeah, it really was.
It's all right. So it's been 9 years for you, and you're still getting these dumb questions. Fran, how you said it was 7 years before you had your child. So
yeah, I mean, it was 7 years, and then trying natural, I don't even count because it didn't happen. So
we're talking a while. And Angie, for you, how?
All together, like 10 years.
So we're talking pretty much a decade for everybody in here in this room, but amongst the 3 different cameras of yours. And so what I'm curious about is, has Instagram with the TTC community blowing up, and Facebook and Resolve being able to connect with people via social media and different distribution channels, and not just a couple of lines of communication, as Web 2.0 has exploded, and just we're sort of in a more socially tolerant society than I think we had been in the past. Like, do you see a change?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
I see the conversation continues. Now there's, obviously there's celebrities opening up about their journey. resolve. They, advocated for different bills, and there's been so many conversations about awareness and education. So, I mean, there are so many degrees of social media that has just exploded with infertility, but believe it or not, there still are people that were like myself, silent, don't want to open up. And there's people that still have those issues about educating themselves on what infertility is, and going back to like adoption, surrogacy, and other family building options. There's that education. So there's so many things out there that I feel have changed, and changed for the better, where the conversation is out there and it's continuing.
Do either of you want to add to that?
I think one of the big changes that you see is the millennials. So if depending on the graph you look at, I'm considered a millennial. So we're much more like in your face. Like, I'm not gonna stand here and take this crap. And I demand better treatment, and you're going to mandate that I have health care, but I have to pay, $20,000 out of pocket for the medical options that I need. And we get frustrated and loud about it because we have social media, and we're going to get on there and like shake our fists and, rally the troops and just try to get people moving on it.
I think that's just a general truth that I don't think people appreciate, is that millennials just will not settle for like not getting
no.
the things they want.
I do not settle.
They won't settle for not getting the things they want, much less settle for not getting the things they need.
Yeah.
And I just feel like our space and most spaces have not even begun to see that the other foot is about to drop when it comes to millennials.
We're about to get a huge, that's where everything's going. We're all the incoming patients and advocates that we're going to start getting are all going to be millennials. So you're just going to get more people like me who are really loud and angry with the whole situation and want to make a change, because that's what you do. You get loud and you make a change.
Candace, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with the millennials. But one of the things that also is coming with them is the fact that they are becoming they have access to that technology, and they're hungry for information. The key is to provide them with the accurate information.
Yeah.
Because there is so much information out there, but there's so much bad information. So
you have to eat a whole bunch of pineapples.
Yes. Right? Guilty. Yeah. And that's the thing is people have to realize that they need to have access to quality information. So they need to look at the SART data. They need to look at ASRM. They need to look at the CDC. They need to be looking at organizations like Resolve. And they also need to be taking these questions and going to the REs and questioning these things too. It's all about being your own advocate.
Yeah.
And it's all about getting that information, but get the right information.
And segueing on the just being an advocate, just in general, one of the things that I push in my support group all the time is millennials don't just, the doctor said, so that's what I'm going to do. No, we don't do that. We go home and we Google everything, and we really have to be our own advocates in the doctor's office and be willing to stand up and ask why. Explain that to me. Why is it that way? What do you mean? And ask those questions. And I think millennials are more willing to do that and to arm themselves with that information when they go to the doctor.
Well, I agree. Being your own advocate is giving you that information, and being also more confident knowing what you're getting yourself into, what this treatment means, what this medication may, do, side effects. I think that helps, giving you a little bit more confidence knowing what you're doing going into IVF, IUI, whatever kind of treatment you're having. It's better to know what's going to happen or what could happen versus not knowing, where you might, lead or what the doctor says. Yes, the doctor is the doctor, I understand, but sometimes you have to question certain things to know that you're doing the right thing for yourself, for your body, for your family, or, just knowing you're making the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think practices have a hard time with that too. Especially, all right, so let's, and I do try to not be like a smarmy, like whiz kid, like, oh, I know everything about social media, I know everything about millennials. I really try to respect that REs have 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and then 3 years of fellowships. That's 15 years of higher education and training. And then like having somebody be like, well, I Googled that, so I think one of the issues that they're having is that they also need to empower people to be their own advocate, right? Like, so that people are being advocate in the right way. And I think that also like develops some trust. And I think that's still something that we're working on.
Yeah.
If the REs have that confidence, knowing that they appreciate you asking those questions because they know you're arming yourself with information, they may not. Some doctors do, where they don't like when the patient asks too many questions. But in this situation, it is a long journey. And if you feel empowered by your RE, or, they even have that bedside manner and they work with you and they answer your questions, they take the time for you, I think it helps, because it helps like move forward in a journey, knowing that you as a patient is educating yourself, as the REs are appreciating you asking these questions. So I think, but there is definitely more room for that, because I find that different REs, they have different ways and they think everybody's body is the same, which it's not. So,
and I think that's also a big part of it too, because I've been to like 6 different REs at this point. And the really good ones did appreciate my knowledge and really respected that fact. Whereas the RE that's like my worst nightmare was one of those guys like, don't ask me questions. What do you mean you can't afford an IUI this month? Like, obviously I was just a paycheck for one of his Beamers or something. And that's how some of them make you feel. Whereas the clinics that I go to now, the one that I see locally and the one that I actually do my IVF through, are very supportive of my knowledge base and love the fact that I empower myself that way.
Which is good, because it makes sense for them. If you're more educated, then it makes your conversations more meaningful.
Yeah.
But also, I really want to hit home the point that, in 45 states, you're paying for this out of pocket.
Yeah.
But you have a right also, not only as a patient, you have the right as a patient to your healthcare, but also as a consumer. You're dropping 12, 15, 20 grand on something. You have the right to be able to really get the full extent of the experience that you want.
Yep.
And I really try to equip people to think of themselves that way too, in a good way. A lot of people don't like to think of themselves as a consumer. Mm-hmm. And Angie, in one case, like, you are a dollar sign and you used it correctly.
Yep.
Like, you voted with your feet and went to somebody else who actually deserved that to earn your business. I think that's hugely important. We've been talking for a while now. We went over, which I think is awesome, because we've had despite mid-Atlantic thunderstorms,
we still have people watching.
And still being in beta. I think that it was just awesome having this. It was just a general conversation. That's why I want, if it's not Blab, then something else, but something like this format to be more present in our space, because it's so natural. It's just a good flow, and it brings people together. And I want to leave on this thought, which is that I personally don't think that we have reached the tipping point yet. I don't think that we're terribly close either. I think I can see momentum even just in the very short time that I've been here, especially hearing you talk about being in here for 10 years and seeing some momentum. I don't think we're there yet. And so what needs to happen in order, and I'm talking about impact on public affairs, on policy, and just the zeitgeist of being more accepted.
We need to get more people, and Candace knows exactly where I'm going with this.
Take it away, Angie.
More people to Advocacy Day.
Yes.
We need butts and seats. That's literally what I tell people. Like, I got 4 or 5 girls from my support group coming with me this year, and I just told them, I said, we're never going to make a change until they see 1,000 of us walking out to our appointments. And then they're not going to be able to stop paying attention to us. They're not going to be able to ignore us. The louder we get, the more demanding we get, they're going to have to listen at some point. And we're going to have to get laws passed and things changed to get the national recognition that we need.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I mean, we have a choice. There's so many people who are angry. There are so many people who want change. You have a choice. You can do it. You are a citizen, and you have the right as a citizen of the U.S. to make that change. Join us and change the world and change these things so that family building is no longer a financial barrier. They can actually have a family and it not be something that has a price tag. They can get treatment for their disease, and it's something that it is included. This isn't an elective. This is a disease. So Resolve's Advocacy Day is May 11th, and we are so close to 200. Yes, we're so close to 200 advocates right now. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Who's going to be that 200 advocate? We need you. We need you.
I'll be a supporter via social media. Unfortunately, I've come in the past, but I've used my voice on the phone, with my letters, with my emails. So even if you can't make it, like I haven't made it in like 2 years, but being there in person is a totally different, like feeling, because you feel so empowered. But you could still write letters, you could email, you could call your representatives. So it's a really great way to get involved, and I really miss that I'm not able to come again this year.
I mean, as like a first-time advocate attending for my first time last year, it is truly the most just overwhelming and empowering day throughout your entire infertility journey to be able to take that moment of control. Like, there's so much we don't control in this. We can't make our bodies work the way we want them to. We can't decide when we're going to have our family. We can go to Washington, D.C. and sit down with our legislators and say, I need you to look me in the face and tell me that you don't want to fight for my right to build a family. Mm-hmm. How do they tell you no? It's really hard to ignore that. It's even harder to ignore that when you have 20 other couples sitting in that room with them, looking at them. When you have people calling them. When you have people on social media hitting them on their Twitter and their Facebook pages telling them that. When they're just hit on all sides.
Yes.
Yeah, and Fran makes a great point. There's some people who can't make it there, but there's so many things you can do to support us from your seat as to where you are right now. If you can't make it to DC, you can support us. Mm-hmm. And you can reach out to resolve.org /advocacy day if you want more information on it, or just follow us all on social media, and we'll definitely lead you in that direction. And Griff, you're joining us. Tell us about you're excited about it, right?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm just excited to hang out with everybody. But I think there's probably a lot of people that think that, like, this doesn't actually work, or because we know that just like anything you hear about politics is dysfunctional. I don't know anything about politics. I don't come from the experience directly. I don't have a medical background. I'm not qualified to give first aid to a paper cut. But I got 2, maybe even 3 congressmen to sponsor the IVF for Vets bill just by showing up and just by talking about it's important and just by following up. And people can do that. And when Angie's saying, like, we can get a couple hundred more people, I hope that just people will watch the replay of this, and if we can just get a couple more people coming out. Like, I just decided to go into a couple more offices. So if a couple more people watch this, decide to come, they decide to go to a couple extra offices, you just never know the impact that you might be able to have.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
And you meet great people.
I mean, great.
Make awesome friends.
You guys, it was awesome talking without NC Roxanne joined. Hey, NC Roxanne.
Without
You're out
NC
of here.
Roxanne joined. Hey, NC
I'm glad you found us.
you're out of here.
And hopefully you can watch the replay. Find me at Griff Jones if you want to.
Hopefully you can watch the replay. Find me at Griff Jones if you want to
play to this. And it was just awesome talking with everybody. I hope that we can do it
it was
again.
just awesome talking with everybody. I hope that we can do it again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We have to do it again.
Nice seeing you guys again.
It was my pleasure. All right, take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for inviting.